AITA for telling my mom I did not want her there when I got home from deployment. I 21 male have been deployed for the past 10 months and I will be getting home in 1 week. My wife and his plan was for her to be the only one to know what day I was coming back, so that when I get leave we can go back and surprise all of our family and friends. My wife 21F visited home a couple weeks ago for a family event, and while she was there she spent a day with my mom and 2 younger sister HSH. My mother is very pushy and hates surprises, so much so that me surprising her by coming home would make her mad at me. My wife and I knew we would eventually have to tell her because of this, though we're waiting until the last minute because she would have told my sisters if she knew my date. Well, while my wife was there, my mom pushed and pushed, telling her that she wouldn't speak to her, let the girls go places, and she had to know so she could take days off work. My wife gave her a week range of my leave a couple weeks after I get back so that she could request off. Well, my mom texted me today telling me that she would be here for the welcome home when our plane lands. I asked if she cleared this with my wife, seeing as she apparently planned to stay with us in our 1-bedroom apartment, and she said no. I asked if the girls knew and were coming, and she said no. My mom has done a few things that presses between my wife and I, so I lost it on her. Told her I wouldn't be giving her the date that I fly in. That if I wanted her there I would want my sisters there as well. I stopped there until she started complaining that she was a single mom who raised me on her own, and that I should want to see her first. That's when I told her I didn't want her in my house at all when I first get home. I am a married, grown man now, I don't need my mom. I want to see and spend time with my wife first and foremost. She pressed further saying I've been here for you since before you were born. She's been here for years. Eventually trash talking my wife, saying she doesn't even have a real job and doesn't contribute. My wife is a nanny while she is in school, and she gets paid well, so she absolutely does contribute more than enough. This is where I may be the asshole. I told my mom that I was tired of her badgering, that I wanted to come home to my wife and be alone in our home with our pets. My wife and I would not want to host her, and we wanted the house to ourselves so that we can have sex wherever and whenever we please because we haven't seen each other in so long. My mom cry. She's sending me long paragraph texts every few hours about how she doesn't know where her caring son went, about how I need to let my wife go because I use her for her body, about how all I care about is my own pleasure, and I have no care for my family at all. So rate it, AITA. The second story, AITA for taking all of the clothes in my size off the rack, so resellers couldn't grab everything before I looked. Last week I had time and stopped into a thrift and they were just putting out stuff from their truck. I am never so lucky to be there when that happens. The shops are always very picked over with just Old Navy or Target clothes whenever I can go, so I was happy I might find something. I started browsing normally and was finding some good stuff for once. Then I saw a group of 3 women come in. One had a little computer for scanning books, the other 2 had iPads or something, I assumed to check resale prices. Either way they were clearly resellers and started grabbing stuff after checking labels. I felt a sense of dread because I wouldn't be fast enough to check, so I just swooped everything off the rack and into my cart in my size. When the 2 got to me they started staring. I said what? And one was like we'd like to be able to see what's on the rack too. I said that they could as soon as I was done. She scoffed at me and said that's rude. We'd like a chance to shop these clothes too. I just ignored her and started looking at things one by one, taking my time, then putting them right back on the rack. The women were getting mad and snatching things basically out of my hand. I held up a nice top and one of them tried grabbing it out of my hand. And I said excuse you and turned my back to her. They got all pissy and one stomped away to get a worker. The worker came over and asked what was going on. I said I was looking at the items from a rack, same as anyone else. They said I was hoarding everything, so they couldn't get a chance to look. The worker said that I wasn't doing anything wrong, and then said to me thank you for putting everything back when you're done. I finished what I was doing with the women breathing down my neck and took my clothes to go try on. One of them kept following me and asked me what the fuck my problem was, why I was being such a bitch, etc. I said sorry that you're having a bad day, but it's really not my problem. AITA. I just wanted the chance to be able to find nice clothes for once. From my POV I didn't do anything different than people who fill up their carts and go try on everything. Plus I didn't even take all of the good clothes to begin with. The third story. AITA for not putting my Mil's maiden name in my child's name. My fiancé 20 for male and I 20 for female are expecting our first child in December of this year. We don't know the gender yet, so we were picking names for both a boy and a girl. We've fallen in love with names already. My fiancé has his father's last name, and that name is on his birth certificate, while his mother has a completely different last name. She has been hellbent on getting us to make the last name of our child her maiden name, which neither of us have. So in my head it just doesn't make sense. She has been very manipulative in the past with various things, to the point where we have given in to just get her to leave us alone about things. This time around, she proceeded to guilt trip us on why we won't give the child her last name. She proceeded to throw the "I raised you, he didn't" card, and even said she was going to go to the court to change my fiancé's last name, which I found hilarious, seeing he's a grown adult. Now mind you, Mil has 4 sons, 2 of which have her maiden name as her last name, and all 4 children are straight and have potential to bear children of their own in the future. In trying to convince my fiancé not to give in to even hyphenating her last name and keeping it just his current last name to help set early boundaries on raising this child. But Mil has it so deep in his mind that he has to please her, and that she's entitled to make these decisions because she raised him. Not to mention she had demanded to be at my gender ultrasound instead of waiting for the reveal we have planned at our baby shower. So in just curious if ITA, because I want our child to have his or her father's last name and not their grandmother's. Update. My fiancé and I had talked and we have agreed to give the baby his last name, as I will be marrying him and taking the last name anyway. Boundaries will be heavily set with Mil and appointments will be kept private between the 2 of us. I thank all of you who have validated my feelings and who have given advice, as this all has helped make us realize and make him realize that this is a creepy power control thing on her end. We only want the best for baby and we need to lay the law now or it will never happen. The 4th story. AITA for being honest that we didn't enjoy our wedding and wish we eloped. My wife and I got married about 3 weeks ago. I love her and have no regrets marrying her, but we both massively regret having a traditional wedding when we both wanted to elope. We ended up not eloping due to family pressure, mostly from her parents, who made her feel bad being their only daughter and potentially denying them the chance to see their daughter get married, and said she'd regret having her moment. In actuality, it seemed they just wanted to have their moment. The last year was so full of unnecessary drama, and while each of our parents contributed to paying for the wedding, we still ended up putting a lot up ourselves. Everything just kept getting more and more expensive. Not that we expected to get a ton in wedding gifts, but the cash gifts we got did not make up for what we paid. Overall, it was a year of stress, a bunch of drama over things like who should be in the wedding party, invited to the wedding, and all the wedding drama I always heard about. The actual day of wasn't fun either. Both of us get mild social anxiety, big part of why both of us wanted to elope, and it was as bad as we expected it to be. We got back from our honeymoon Thursday, and this weekend we were at her parents' house for Father's Day. They really wanted to pat themselves on the back for convincing us to do the traditional wedding, and kept making comments like, "See, wasn't that so much fun?" At first we'd politely agree and try to change the subject, but I kinda broke towards the end of the night when they made a suggestion that we disagreed with, and my Mil said, "Oh honey, of course, it's your decision, but just remember I was right about the wedding and I think I'm right about this." I just lost it and then told them all about how much we hated the experience. They asked my wife if it's true and she broke down and said, "It's 100% true. She hated the whole experience." We left shortly after, but then this morning her dad calls me, saying how rude I was and how he wants me to go over there to apologize to his wife in person. I don't think that I should, but just wanted to get some outside perspective. The 5th story. AITA for hiding my wealth from my family. Throwaway account because I don't know who lurks my main. I am 30 for oldest of 5 and am married with 1 kid. My wife and I keep our finances separate. She knows I have money, but I don't think she realizes how much I have put away over the years. My siblings, in-laws, and parents are awful with money. They buy a new vehicle every couple of years they can barely afford, spend money on unnecessary stuff and vacations. Recently my sister told me her car is 3 months behind and she keeps borrowing money from my parents to pay it. My parents told me they maxed out their credit card and aren't sure how to go about it. They didn't mention the amount. My in-laws said money is tight and are for months behind on their mortgage. My brother says he defaulted on a $4,000 loan that sounded like a predatory loan. It makes me sick to think about, especially, and they confide in me these things. And I feel like I should help them because I can, but I worry about being taken advantage of. I also feel like they put themselves in these situations. Why parents have plenty of toys, boats, kayaks, 2X campers, etc. they could sell. My in-laws both drive very expensive SUVs, including a new BMW X5. My sister put a whole trip overseas on a credit card. I watch them spend money in shops. One has 4 to 6 Stanley water bottles because they want colors to match their outfit. Meanwhile, I have everything paid off besides the house. I have $82,000 in savings, $250,000 and $401,000. My income is very good, and I think my family suspects that because they know what I do for work. I was planning on continuing to save and buy Boxster cash, obviously keep some left over. But my guilt factor is telling me I should help family before getting fancy car I have been wanting. I would hate for my in-laws to lose the house and have my nieces and nephews on the street, or worse, while I drive a new car around. I also, as bad as it sounds, don't want anyone moving in with me. Edit. I am glad to see AITA for this. Me criticizing them in my head makes me feel like a jerk. Another edit. I guess I realized I complained more about their spending and didn't really mention the other stuff going on. They have issues like a furnace that broke and only works at 30%. So their house gets super cold during the winter. So much so they had blankets everywhere and moved the kids downstairs. My nieces and nephews have medical things that have not been taken care of. They miss out on after-school activities because no one can pay for it. If my sister loses the car, she loses her ability to get to work, as she chose to move to a big city where she knows no one and has a 45-minute commute to work. If anything, the guilt mainly comes from not taking care of my nieces and nephews and blaming their parents. And I just don't want people to be homeless. About 14 years ago, I slept in my car for a month during winter, with only $100 in my bank account while I tried to save up for a deposit for an apartment. I only made $8.75 an hour then. It was miserable, cold, embarrassing. I remember going to Quick Trip for hot food because I was tired of protein bars, bread and peanut butter. These teens hit my car with snowballs and ice, waking me up once and then were like, oh shit, someone is sleeping in there, and said other things that made me sick. I know I didn't give out too much information, but I was kinda surprised about being criticized for my own actions. To answer some questions, concerns, yes, I have a 529 set up for the kid. They are for and they are set, even if college rates continue to rise. The company I worked for paid 3 years of my college and it was a tremendous help. It's not my money, so I didn't list it. I have $40,000 in non-liquid assets. I make $175,000 a year, which included a $50,000 raise I got 3 years ago, and I never changed my spending habits. It helped me greatly build my savings in both my retirement and normal life and pay off the truck and camper. I owe less than $190,000 on a $300,000 home. The Boxster is a plan which the kid is in school, and I am not paying $1,000 a month. Then childcare, I don't plan on blowing all my savings on. More than likely used $40,000, $50,000. Some may think pay off the house or that's it stupid to buy, but I am a big car enthusiast and it would great to own. Also, it's not a Boxster, it's something else, but I worry someone would catch on because I've talked about it a lot. My wife and I have been together 10 years. We've kept finances separate. Both of our parents have fought about money or made it a big deal, so we stick with separate. She Venmos me half the mortgage and utilities every month. I cover groceries and childcare in full. It works. We do have a joint account we put money into for house, child stuff that comes up. I have an HSA I open for medical bills and put money into every paycheck. Every medical bill that has come up, that account has cover. My company matches a good amount too.